Hey, First Things First listeners, before we start the show, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Now let's start the show. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Hope everybody had a lovely
Do you know what's happening this weekend? Do y'all know what's happening this weekend?
No, tell us.
The game of the year in the NFL. We got to have the show of the year on this show because we have the game of the year in the NFL. Show of the year.
A little Mahomes,
Packers,
a little
Bears,
Brady,
man.
a little
Should be a great one.
Oh, Packers.
No, I'm kidding. No. You got it, Jenna. You got it. Chiefs, Bucs. That's the game.
All right. Well, before we can get to that game, we got to get to this game. We start this morning in Dallas, where we thought we were going to see a motivated Cowboys team. We thought we would see Zeke feast. Remember, Wilds? That's what you wanted. We thought we'd see the Cowboys win. We did not. What we did see was Washington roll over the Cowboys 41-16. They now take sole control of the NFC East, and Dallas drops to a dismal 3-8. Brandon, let us kick off the conversation with you. Did Washington prove they're actually the most dangerous team in the NFC East?
Ooh, they may have. 330 million Americans, almost 100 million avid football fans. Not everybody watch football, but there's a lot of football fans that really know what they're talking about and really knows what they're seeing. So if you were sitting around the television yesterday, having Thanksgiving with your family, and you turned this game on and you were watching it, you would have thought this was a really good game heading into the fourth quarter. You would have thought the Washington team was actually one of the premier teams in the NFL. So I think they look good, and I think that has a lot to do with Alex Smith. Sometimes when you insert a veteran quarterback, sometimes when you insert someone who has that leadership ability where they can lead without even talking, it changes dynamic in the entire organization. They just walk different. They talk different. You have young quarterbacks. They can play. It's one thing. But when you have a veteran quarterback like Alex Smith, he comes to work dressed differently. He comes to work, takes notes differently. The way he calls his plays and his control in the huddle is everything that gives everybody not in that huddle in the locker room a sense of poise and hope. So I think Alex Smith has a lot to do with how Washington played yesterday.
So I agree with that. Washington is the most dangerous team in the NFC East, and if they get the right matchup, they actually could be a dangerous team in the first round of the playoffs. Before we explain why, though, something about this show. We now officially all have defined roles. I was waiting for Wild's defined role to come into play, but it has. So let me explain. Brandon is the guy on the show you will go to if you want the next level football analysis. Here's what you saw, but here's what you really saw. I obviously am the person you go to for the gambling picks. Jenna is the person you go to for the, let's call them eclectic 80s and early 90s references. Wilds has become your go-to fantasy football guy. Were you watching yesterday?
Oh, yeah,
Wilds was like, hey, you know who's going to feast? Antonio Gibson. I'm like, Antonio Gibson, that's your pick, huh, buddy? I was like, did you think really? That's what you're going with. And look at this. Antonio Gibson, 3 touchdowns. So, listen, there's nothing Kevin Wilds will like more than if you at him on Twitter asking him who to start in your half-point PPR leagues. So please start that immediately. Remember, that's Wilds with an E at Kevin Wilds. Now, about the Washington football team. He called it. This was a culmination of the last 6 weeks. In the last 6 weeks, they're 3-3. That doesn't sound great, but one of those losses 2-point conversion at the gun. They missed it against the Giants. Their other 2 losses, a 3-point loss to the Giants where Alex Smith, very early on and back in his tenure, threw 2 bad picks, and a 3-point loss to Detroit where Matt Prater hit a 60-yarder with zeros on the clock. Ooh. Their wins have been they crushed Dallas twice and they crushed Cincinnati. So this is a team that is, especially since the insertion of Alex Smith, playing better on the offensive side. And defensively, Wilds, they've got 4 first-round picks on that D-line. They've got stud after stud, plus Chase Young, who's really coming into his own the latter half of the season. So if I said it yesterday,
and a great
it was kind of a soft pedaling of the take. I'm ready to go even further with it. If they win the division, which I think they will, if Tampa ends up as the 5 seed, that's a tough matchup for the Bucs because of the pass rush. Now, Tampa, we don't know. They, in theory, could still win the division. And if they don't win the division, they could be the 5, 6, or 7 because the NFC is so compact. But if it's Washington, Tampa, that is not the matchup the Bucs want to see.
No. Buddy, we talked about this in the pregame show. I'm debuting a new thing. It's called Great Nick Predictions. It's this notebook. I'm going to upgrade the notebook. But saying Tampa Bay it's not the matchup they want, dude, that's not gonna move the meter for the show. That's not gonna go viral. I need something stronger out of you, bud. Give me something I can work with in the notebook of great predictions.
We've got 2 hours on the show. I was going to wait until 9:18 a.m. Eastern, but I will say what I truly believe. If it is Washington, Tampa in the first round of the playoffs, Washington will win that football game. If that is the matchup we get,
if Washington wins that game, there's no way Brady shakes Alex Smith's hand. I'm just going to say it. If Washington can pull away,
that's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
Do you have a point, Wells, before we move on? All right, let me move on to this real quick. I want to dive in a little deeper. With the Cowboys down 4 earlier in the 4th, right? They tried this disaster of a fake punt, 4th and 10 at their own 25. Washington scored on the next play. They put them up 11. But Mike McCarthy defended the move. Take a listen to this.
Well, you won't get anywhere if you're thinking about negatives all the time. Obviously it was a solid play call. It's a good play design. Their gunner made a good play, came off of it. He put us in a high-low read for Cedric. So it's a play that, if we hit it, obviously we're sitting here applauding. That's the nature of those plays. You can never convert them, obviously, if you don't call them and if you don't believe in them. So I clearly understood the situation when it was called.
So, Brandon, I understand what he's trying to say. I see his point. But did Mike McCarthy's play calling cost the Cowboys the game?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a part of it, right? Like, if it works, you're a genius and you're talked about. And if it doesn't work, then we're going to talk about you in a very bad way. But look, let me give you a little insight. Every team, and it's almost universal, starts their day around 8 a.m. 8 a.m. is special teams. Not everybody's in that meeting. Not all the coaches, not all the players. The superstar players may be in the hot tub. They may be in the athletic training room with Normatec boots on. 8:30 the team meeting starts. But in that 8 a.m. meeting, there's guys that's sitting there and the coaches are telling you, hey, here are the fakes of the week. Here are the ways we're going to attack them and punt. We're going to go block this kick, and this is how we're going to do it because of their tendencies. The fundamentals, Washington is giving you the tendencies. This is actually a great play call. They had what they wanted. He just didn't throw it. Cedric needs to throw the ball. Now, look, was it super aggressive? Yes. Did it cost their team? Yes. But look, your team isn't doing anything. We're in the 4th quarter. CeeDee Lamb already dropped the ball. Your young players aren't stepping up and giving you any type of momentum. So I do like that the call was strategic, but it definitely cost them the game, Nick.
So, and this is where you have to incorporate, I'll go back to the gambling side of me, the risk-reward factor. And in this specific play, it was way out of whack. You were down 4 points to a Washington team that had 1 extended touchdown drive the entire game. The other touchdown they scored happened on a drive where they got the ball inside the 20 because of a failed fourth down conversion and a penalty. So your defense had actually played pretty decent. You're in the game. And I understand Cowboys fans all in online saying 28's wide open. He is wide open. But the risk is that Cedric Wilson doesn't see him, doesn't hit him, does see him, does try to hit him, and throws it out of bounds. This is not and the risk you are running is you lose the game. They couldn't win the game right here, but they could lose it, and they did lose it. So even if it was drawn up exactly the way they wanted, because it can go, Wilds, it can go exactly the way you coached it to go as far as what the other team's going to do, and it still can cost you the game. That's where the risk reward to me was too skewed. If they were down 2 scores in this spot, it's different. They're down 4 points, and the defense had played pretty decent, Wilds.
So you know what the part about it I love, though? And Troy referenced it. He was trying to, salvage it. He was like, well, I guess if no one's expecting it, that's the time to run it. I was like, yeah, I'm buying that. And I know everyone's eviscerating poor Mike McCarthy, but not your old buddy Kevin Wildes, because you know why? I love trick plays unconditionally. I love trick plays like a mother's love. Doesn't matter if you're running them at the wrong times or you're not trying to get 1 yard, trying to get 10 yards. You come to your old buddy Kevin Wildes, and he will support you just like a way gone misbehaving son. I will still love you. And you say, Wildes, but it makes no sense you lose the game. Well, you know what else is a dumb play? Starting the second half of the Super Bowl off and kicking it to the Colts. But surprise, surprise, bounce off the guy's chest, and it's Saints balls, one of the greatest plays of all time. So for me, I have to be unconditional with it. Was that a bad play? Yes, but I still loved it. So now I'm going to love every trick play. I don't call it whenever you want. I will come and support you. So if a coach ever needs, if a coach is ever looking for support, 7:30 Monday through Friday, your old buddy Kevin Wildes is here for you.
Loves trick plays, Jenna, and giving fantasy football advice. Remember, America,
I was gonna say,
Kevin Wildes for your PPR.
He loves trick plays, but he's anti-mimes as touchdown celebrations in the end zone. You're a tricky guy, Wildes. Again, Washington now first place in the NFC East after their win over the Cowboys. We take a turn, talk some Chiefs and Bucs. What's on the line for these teams, for this game, for these quarterbacks? Come Sunday. First things first, next.
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness, or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
We're going to turn our attention to this weekend and the game to watch. Bucs and the guy that keeps giving people balls, Patrick Mahomes. The best to ever do it against the best currently doing it. Brady does have the advantage on Mahomes coming into Sunday. 2-1 lifetime against him in head-to-head matchups. Not a huge advantage, still an advantage. But this, of course, Brady's first time with Tampa. So, Brandon, what has to happen for the Bucs to pull off the upset?
Yeah, I mean, look, Tampa's struggles are real. But should we be alarmed and start jumping ship? Not right now. Just hold tight. This should be a game they get back on track. And to do that, they have to do 3 things. Number 1, you have to run the ball. This is a Kansas City Chiefs team that's giving up almost 5 yards a carry. And you have an aging quarterback. Some would say, like Nick Wright, whoa, work around the quarterback when you lean on the run game. I just call it playing good football and being smart. So run the football at least 25 times a game. Last week, you ran it 18 times. You have 2 dog running backs. Give it to them. Let them lead the way. And when you do that, you can now counter the run game with play action. I want to see a little waggle as well, some max protection. When you go against a front 4, front 7 that can get to the quarterback, why don't we max pro, get it to our wide receivers? If they're not there, guess who you have? A running back in the flat that's always open in these situations. Counter the run game by play action. That's what he did well in New England. The last thing, let's use AB inside. I'll be honest here, guys. AB is an outside wide receiver. He likes to play to the short side of the field. One-on-one matchups, we usually put him at the X wide receiver. But let's put him in that Edelman situation. Let's put him in that Wes Welker type scenario. Let's see if he can get it done. Why? Because Brady likes to work inside out. He's not a guy that is very efficient thrown outside the numbers. And he hasn't been that guy in 10 years. So if we do these three things, this could be the upset of the week.
Wow.
Brandon,
okay.
Can I just ask you a very quick question before I give my take on this? How would
Yes,
those
100%.
keys be? How would those keys be any different, if at all, if the Tampa Bay Bucs quarterback this week was Nick Foles?
Oh, but that's not it. But I love the question, but that's not it. Nick Foles, we're not even having this discussion. They're not sitting at 7-4. What we're talking about is who's the next quarterback if Nick Foles was on that team.
Okay.
That's the conversation that we would be having today.
I agree. We probably also wouldn't be talking about the Bucs nearly as much. That's all fair. I also think that if Nick Foles were the quarterback for this game, it'd be like pound the run, try to hit him with play action, hit him with dink and dunks, but that's just my take. Here's what has to happen to me primarily. Ali Marpet, who's missed a few games with a concussion, he has practiced this week. It's not yet been announced 100% if he's going to play. He needs to play, and they must neutralize Chris Jones. Frank Clark got the big contract in free agency a year ago. They brought in Tyrann Mathieu. They spent some draft picks on defensive players. Chris Jones is the best player on this defense. I believe Chris Jones to be the third best player on the entire team. He was non-existent in the Raider game. And the Raiders might have the best guard-center guard combo in football, but the Bucs, when healthy, are a close second. They have to neutralize Chris Jones, and they have to take a page out of the Raiders playbook in this regard. I know the Chiefs scored 35 on the Raiders, but the Raiders limited the number of possessions the Chiefs had. That was a fast game because the Raiders' drives were taking 5-6 minutes, and because the Raiders' defense made the Chiefs play in front of them. They made the Chiefs take small 4 to 8 yard bites at a time. They didn't have quick scoring drives over the top. So you want this game to move at a rapid pace if you're the Bucs. You want to keep the Chiefs playing in front of you, and when you have the ball, to Brandon's point, whether it's running the clock or short passes, you want extended drives. But the Wilds, you know the Chiefs are going to score 28 points, at least. So the question is, can the Bucs manufacture 30 points in this football game? I don't think they can, which is why I don't think they can win.
Yeah. So Brandon, I'm gonna piggyback off that. I'm gonna give you some stats, and you tell me what Bruce Arians should do. Tom Brady, 20 plus air yards last 3 games. He's 0 for 15 with 3 interceptions, and this is the note from Dusty, which I thought was unnecessary. A 0.0 passer rating. Dusty, I know he's 0 for 15. You're just piling on at this point. So does that mean don't take any shots, or what's the maximum amount of shots you want to take down the field? Do you want to take one shot down the field with Mike Evans? Do you want to take multiple shots of like, let's just cast a big net and keep on going to it? One will eventually hit, or like, you know what? I watched first things first. I'm going to do Brandon's keys, and then turn Mike Evans loose for maybe one big shot.
Well, before I even answer the question, let's talk about how this thing is set up. This is 90% Bruce Arians' offense, which is super aggressive, and to Wild's your point, is taking shots. This is 10% of New England's offense and Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the opposite. They're on totally opposite ends of the spectrum. One guy's aggressive, one guy's dink and dunk. So when you look at it, the players play. The coaches aren't out there. Really good coaches put their players in the best position and utilize their skill set. If Tom Brady is telling you that that's never been my game, I won 2-3 Super Bowls dinking and dunking, why don't we do that? you eventually have to listen, or are you going to continue to sputter the way you do against the good teams? So for me, Wilds, I don't think you predetermine it. I think what you do is you lean on the run game, be more balanced, and then that will set up your shots. That's what they did in New England. How many times did we see Gronkowski running this diagonal play, start on the right side of the field, run into the left, catch the ball 15, 16 yards on the backside numbers? How many times did we see a guy, Edelman, run, the flea flicker play? Because they set it up through the run, and that's how they got their chunk plays. So for me, Wilds, you don't predetermine it. You wait and see how the pace and the feel of the game goes, and then you take your shots.
And just one quick additional point of order, because I roasted Dusty yesterday about his Eagles fandom, so let me have his back here. If Tom Brady was just 0 for 15 on those deep shots, believe it or not, his passer rating would be 39.6. It's the 3 interceptions that drop it down to 0. If you're 0 for 15 for 0 yards, you get a 39.6 passer rating. It's like writing your name on the SAT. You start with 400 points. You start with a 39.6. Work backwards.
You know too much.
You're right.
You know too much.
I got your back, Dusty. I got your back.
A lot of numbers. By the way, can I just say this? You don't think Brady and Arians had a conversation about this maybe one time before he came to Tampa? It boggles my mind that this would be now coming up this deep into the season. Hey, I got a quarterback matchup for you this weekend. Kyler Murray versus Cam Newton. Similar styles, different heights. One's a little taller. We'll let you know who. Week 12 preview coming up. Well, the Fox football feast continues today with 2 great games as Nebraska takes on number 24 Iowa, followed by the big one between Stanford and Cal. Today, 1 Eastern only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Back here on First Things First, time to make our picks for Sunday's free-to-play Super 6 contest. One of the matchups, this one right here, Cardinals at Patriots. Nick, give me a winner and by how many points?
I'm going to say the Cardinals by 4, but I am very anxious about this game because the Cardinals are only 1.5-point favorites. It feels like Vegas is daring you to bet the Cardinals, and that's always a bad sign. So I'm going to say Cardinals by 4, but with massive amounts of trepidation, Brandon.
Oh, Nick, I don't know, man. Look, that's the easy answer, I think. I believe the Patriots will win by 3. This is the time of year where Bill Belichick kind of steps into his own. It's like he tries things out, and then November, December hits. He just takes off. Patriots by 3.
Jenna, I'm respectfully abstaining from making a pick. I'm too emotionally involved. I'm like a judge who has a deep relationship with one of the prosecutors or something. So I'm going to step away from this. We have to win this game. That's all I will say.
No. Okay, Dick Wolf. That's not how this works. All right, Super 6 players, by the way,
Law and Order
have 1 over 2. There you go. If you have to be on the show to make the reference, Nick, 3 episodes. Super 6 contestants have won over $2 million so far this season.
3 episodes?
I don't know. Download. I was in 3 episodes. Download the app on the. Download the Fox Sports app. You're screwing me up because I got so excited about Law and Order. For your chance to win money, you got to get get your picks in for free before kickoff on Sunday. Let us move on, please. And 2 episodes of Homeland while we're patting my resume.
She plays an amazing dead body, Wilds. Nobody plays a dead body like Jenna Wolfe.
I was a reporter. 4 lines. Time for drawing a blank. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers set to host the Bears on Sunday. They can move 3 games clear of Chicago in the NFC North with a win. But Brandon, the player you are most excited to watch, Week 12, is blank.
Oh, Tom Brady. I mean, when you're the GOAT, hey, it comes with a lot of good, it comes with a lot of bad. You got to stand in the paint, you got to handle the pressure. I want to see how he bounces back. Look, when we talk about Tom Brady or we talk about any quarterback, me and Nick, we go head to head. But the reason why I continue to believe in Tom Brady is because I'm not paying all the money and bringing him down to Tampa to throw for 350 yards. That's not what I want. I'm paying you because 80% of the game is mental. So I don't need to see these mental laps late in games, not reading simple coverage. So if he can do that and he can manage the game like he managed the last 3 Super Bowls he's won, then we'll have a chance. So I'm excited to see Tom Brady because I want to see how he bounced back mentally.
I'm going to go with a different quarterback that we battle about, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, now again, the schedule makers have done the Browns no favors. Another brutal opponent this weekend as they have to travel all the way down to Jacksonville to face a team that is just due for a victory. But here's why I'm so excited. We might actually get to see Baker Mayfield in not simply terrible weather. Now, I did check the forecast. They do think it is going to rain in Jacksonville, which will make it the 5th straight game the Browns have played in the rain. But the wind is only supposed to top out at 5 miles an hour, and the rain is not supposed to be terrible. So Baker Mayfield leading the Browns against this gauntlet of a schedule to 8-3, which I would imagine means on Monday we mention them 0 times. What?
We'll mention them. If they're 8-3, we'll mention. Also, you can weigh in on the editorial process. Just because we will definitely mention them because Jenna will mention a commercial that she saw over the weekend with Baker. I'm going with Philip Rivers. Here's something interesting about the show.
If they beat Jacksonville. Sorry, I just had to say it. Go on.
See?
I had to get it out of my system. He set me up for it. Playing wiffle ball here. Go on.
I'm going with my guy, Philip Rivers, because all of a sudden I've started to, sing the Colts defense praise, and Nick is killing me because Philip Rivers turns the ball over, and all of a sudden I'm forced into being like a Philip Rivers fan. So I got to watch this game don't turn the ball over. Last time he played the Titan, he had 308 yards and 1 touchdown, 0 INTs. So Philip Rivers, at this point, just don't turn the ball over because I can't deal with it on Monday. It's a personal issue for me. So just hold on the ball because as I always tell my children, ball security, job security.
Yours and mine.
Yours and
The
mine.
thing is, the Browns have such an easy remaining schedule. They're not can't anymore.
Jenna.
All right, let's go to Indy. We just talked about it. AFC South supremacy on the line. 7-3 Colts, 7-3 Titans facing off. Indy favored by 3 in this one. But Brandon, the team that should be on upset alert is blank.
The Chiefs. Tampa struggles are real, but it's not time to overreact. Let's think about when they struggle. We talk about it all the time. Nick always highlights it, rightfully so. They struggle because Tom Brady going against pressure, it just doesn't match. It's not a great mixture. So when you break it down, it's really teams that can get pressure with the front 4, not the front 7. So they get pressure with the front 4, and they play cover 2 in the back end. This is not the team. Coach Spags, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, is back to being who he was throughout his entire career. He's now being more aggressive and blitzing a lot. This is bad news for the Chiefs. That's what Tom Brady wants you to do. So my upset alert is the Chiefs.
So Brandon's got the Chiefs beating the Bucs. Jenna just said she's got the Jags beating the Browns, which would mean they don't have an easy schedule. She's picked them to lose 5 weeks in a row, just for the record. Now, to my answer. And America, this has been a money-making segment for you. A few weeks ago, I gave you Dolphins over Cardinals. Last week, I gave you the Cowboys over the Vikings. Told you stay away from the Vikings in your survivor pools. Cowboys were due. This week, I bring you Broncos over Saints. Can't lay 6 points with Taysom Hill on the road. Are you out of your mind? Broncos definitely cover the 6, but I also think they might actually win this football game considering they're playing a tight end for the opposing team's quarterback. So we're going to go Broncos upsetting the Saints. Stay hot with our upset picks, Wild.
Okay. You know what? I tried it last week. It didn't hit, and I'm back at it. Jets over Dolphins. We don't know what's going on with Tua's thumb, but then again, Fitzmagic is right there. But listen, I know everyone wants to root against the Jets. Maybe people on their own organization are rooting against them. I know Trevor Lawrence is out there, and we want to bang on Adam Gase. But everyone in the NFL and in the sporting world loves Frank Gore. So if you want a reason to root for Frank Gore other than my pick being right, or a reason to root for the Jets, root for Frank Gore. Here he is with a sad quote about going 0 for 16.
Oh, you and the rest of this team. Yeah. It's we think about that every day. We got to get one. You don't want to go on 16, and especially, like I'm saying, especially this might be my last year. I can't go out like that. So we just gonna keep working as a team, and hopefully we can just try to get one, man. And I can't wait till we get it. I'll be so happy. Because, if it is my last year, I can't say I'm going out on 16,
How do you not love Frank Gore? Fine, I'm rooting for the Jets. I'm rooting for the Jets.
Yes.
On to New England now.
Yes.
Cam and the Patriots hosting Kyler and the Cards. Both teams coming off losses as they try to stay in the division and wild card races. So, Brandon, the team that most needs a win in Week 12 is blank.
Ooh, the Las Vegas Raiders. They need this one. They need to get back on track. Mm-hmm. You know what this team reminds me of? They remind me of the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers. At one point in the season, they were 7-5. Then they went off to win the last 4 games, and they made it to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. But this team is really good. There's always one team every year that's like, where did they come from? And I feel like this is the year we're going to be like, the Las Vegas Raiders. We didn't know who they were exactly in the regular season, but once they got into the post, they were lights out. Las Vegas Raiders, if you want to be that team, you got to get the win this week.
And to the Raiders, to their credit, they don't have an awful loss. Their loss is, if I remember correctly, Patriots early when the Patriots were playing well. They lost to the Bills in a close one. They lost to the Chiefs and they lost to the Bucs. I guess the Bucs is kind of a bad loss, but I mean they've beaten the Saints, they've beaten the Chiefs. So the Raiders not a bad one. I'm gonna go. They beat the Browns as well, actually. I'm gonna go with the Packers. You might say, why do the Packers need the win? They're playing the Bears. If the Packers lose this game, they are only a half game up, essentially, on Chicago, with Week 17 in Chicago still looming. We've all just given them the NFC North, and I do think they're going to win the NFC North. But if they lose this game after blowing that game against the Colts, then all of a sudden, forget the 1 seed, the division comes into question. So the Packers need to bounce back after that meltdown against the Colts and beat the Bears.
Okay. My New England Patriots need to win, or we might have to have a serious discussion about not putting him in the show again after this week until Cam Newton's contract is up. And Cam has been throwing the ball well. This is a chance for him to really air it out. The pass to Bird, the touchdown to Bird last week is like, oh, let's see it. We know that he's running the ball well. And a little fact that no one's talking about, he's got 9 rushing touchdowns this year. He's on pace for 14. That would break his own record. So we know he can run the ball well. Now it's time to air it out a little bit more, Josh McDaniel. Let's open up the playbook. If the Patriots lose, we can have a meeting on Monday whether or not they deserve to be in the show for the rest of the year. I'm ready to have that conversation.
Taking it too far. Hey, you know who's good at airing it out? Taysom Hill. Maybe not. But did Taysom Hill prove all his doubters wrong with another gem Sunday? Can he in Denver? That's next. First things first. On Sunday, MVP candidate Kyler Murray leads the Cardinals against Cam Newton and the Patriots. You got the Giants taking on the Bengals. There's tons of other regional action. You can check local listings for the game in your area. All part of the Fox Football Feast. All right, let's talk some Saints Broncos. On Sunday on Fox, all eyes will be on Taysom Hill. Saints surprised most everyone when he was named the starter over Jameis Winston last week. And Taysom, who had never started an NFL game at quarterback, responded going 18 for 23, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns in a win against Atlanta. So on Sunday against Denver, Saints open for a repeat performance. Brandon, can Taysom Hill prove to Nick on Sunday that he is, in fact, a legitimate NFL starting quarterback?
Absolutely not. There's nothing Taysom Hill
Correct.
can do to prove to Nick. There's just nothing he can do. So let's just jump to the conversation around, can he just prove to himself and his team that he can hold it down until Drew Brees get back? And I think he can. But we got to slow it down a little bit. There's a lot of quarterbacks that start hot and then fizzle out. You go back to Cal Allen last year with the Carolina Panthers. We were like, man, great move. They need to move on from from Cam Newton. And then look how things ended. So we need to slow down just a little bit and let this guy go into the game, work his game plan, and get the win for his team, which I think is going to be hard. Nick, you were right earlier. I think this could be the upset alert of the week. But he needs to just stay poised and take it one play at a time and don't mess it up. Just hold it down until Drew Brees get back.
Okay, so listen. If the question was, can Taysom Hill ever prove to Nick that he's a legit starting quarterback? Sure. I won't put ceilings on anybody. At some point, he could prove it to me. Could he do it Sunday? Of course not. Here's a list of names for you. Ben DiNucci, P.J. Walker, and Brandon Allen. By the way, Brandon Allen is starting for an NFL team this week. I'll give you $5 if you know who it is. The answer is the Bengals for folks at home, and I said it before you did, so I'm not sending you the money. Why did I name those people? Ben DiNucci, P.J. Walker, Brandon Allen. Because all those guys have thrown more passes this season than Taysom has in his career. And all those guys, thankfully, also played full-time quarterback in college. Taysom kind of did miss a couple years with injury. So can any of those guys this week, can Brandon Allen with a really good game for Cincinnati prove to the world that against the Giants that he's a starting quarterback? No, he can't. Can P.J. Walker prove it? No. Ben DiNucci, he got a chance to prove it. Now they're like, okay, we'll try Garrett Gilbert. Andy Dalton, please come back. We don't want to have to go through DiNucci again. That is the sample size we have from Taysom. And this idea that he played really well on this past Sunday is belied by the facts in the video. You're up against the second worst pass defense in the league. You have Sean Payton game planning a baby-proofed offense. And your biggest pass of the game was an awful throw. This is 15 yards underthrown that Emmanuel Sanders had to come back and get. So, no, even if he plays well Sunday, it won't prove he's a starting quarterback. Now, I don't think he's going to play well Sunday, Wilds, and I think I'm going to end up looking very smart on this when the Taysom Hill experiment's over. But, no, one game or a second game could not prove it.
I'm gonna throw you a question, Nick. I was sold, and Sean Payton sold me on it, that variety is the spice of life. That we take out one of the best quarterbacks of all time and we put in Taysom Hill to switch it up, because then you don't have to game plan for one quarterback. You got to game plan for two quarterbacks. And then I'm like, okay, if Taysom Hill is really the starter, maybe we'll get dashes of Jameis. Nope, nothing. Zippo. I was like, oh, was I misfed? I bought this hook, line, and sinker. So for me, and you tell me what you would do, I would throw Jameis in there a little bit. I think the longer you got Taysom out there, the more you kind of figure the guy out. But if you throw Jameis in there, and since that's the philosophy that I've been sold for the last 3 years, I think it's a big win. Would you do that, or do you think it's just too much change?
I would 1,000% do it, and I think they might be forced to do it if the Broncos' pass rush is as effective as I think it will be. But, Brandon, I want to ask you this. To me, there is an element of the Taysom Hill stuff in regards to Sean Payton that is stubbornness. It is the same element that I think led Sean Payton to leaving Mike Thomas in the week 1 game in at the very end, trying to stick it to the Bucs. The stubbornness that you talked about a lot this offseason that you got criticized for when you said, hey, they don't adjust come the playoffs, and that hurts them. I think Sean Payton knows what the narrative surrounding Taysom Hill is and wants to prove to the world, I'm smarter than you, and I can make it work even with this guy. So I think that's part of what's happening here as far as why Jameis is not, like, Sean Payton's not going to get a bunch of credit if Jameis comes in and plays well. He will get massive credit for Taysom Hill. I think that's part of this, Brandon.
100%. I think we all were shocked for the most part when Taysom got the call over Jameis, right? Like, everybody's like, what? How is he doing this? And the first thing I thought about was, this is Coach Payton trying to show everybody, like, I know what I'm talking about, and watch me prove everyone wrong. Look, This isn't a new thing. Everyone around the NFL, everyone in the NFL circles know that Coach Payton is kind of cocky. Look how he handled the situation years ago when the Saints were fighting against Roger Goodell in the NFL. He's that type of guy. He's the only coach on Twitter right now that will get into it with a fan. I happen to like it. I think we need more of it. But, Nick, you are right. You are right. That is Coach's personality. So this could be a play where Coach Payton is saying, you know what, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. But I do believe Taysom in this situation probably gives them the best opportunity to win. We're not in those practice. We're not on those practice fields. We're not in those meetings. We don't know how Jameis is developing and how he looks. So this is him trying to get his team in the best position to win the game.
All right, again, Saints and Broncos, Sunday on Fox. Back to yesterday's big game between Dallas and Washington. Did Mike McCarthy cost the Cowboys the game with his decision-making? We'll discuss next. First things first. Back here, first things first, we head to Dallas, first place on the line, where we thought we were going to see a motivated Cowboys team. We thought we'd see Zeke feast. We thought we'd see the Cowboys win. We did not. We did see Washington roll over the Cowboys 41-16 to take control of the NFC East. Dallas dropping to 3-8 as a result. Mike Vick joining us now. Mike, did Washington prove they are the most dangerous team in the NFC East?
Yes, they did, Jenna, and they look good doing it. In regards to this Washington football team, I mean, the front four that they have on defense, man, Ron Rivera knew what he had in this front. He knew what he had in this defense, and that's why he fought so hard in life. That's why he fought so hard to get back. You know, it was super evident that they were the best team on the field yesterday, the most well-coached team on the field yesterday, and, you know, all the Washington football team needed was some good quarterback play, and I think Ron Rivera had to sit back and watch this team go through the process, you know, and it was a rigorous process, and I know it was hard to watch. But in the end, when Alex Smith emerged and got the opportunity, he stepped up to the plate, and it was all this team needed. They just needed a spark like Alex. You know, I don't know where this has been the last couple of weeks, but it was evident that they needed good quarterback play, and it looked like they got the best quarterback in the NFC East right now, and on both sides of the ball, all three phases of the game. They the best team in the NFC East. And it's looking like they're going to win the NFC East because they're the most talented. They got everything from the defensive side of the ball to the run game, everything that you need to win football games in the National Football League.
Mike, you're one of the greatest players to ever strap it up, but you also occupied two different positions. You were superstar of your teams, and then towards the end, you know, you're able to move into that backup quarterback role. I've always felt, as a wide receiver, that veteran presence from that backup quarterback, that leadership, that savviness, the way you guys dress, the way you guys come to work, always gave us a sense of hope when our number one guy went down. Do you feel like Alex Smith is not only getting into his own groove, but he's actually making everyone around him better?
Let me tell you this, Vick. I sat in the room with Alex Smith for 3 months and got a chance to see how he operated, how he thought football, how he viewed the game. You know, his presence, you know, with his teammates, his presence in the locker room, his presence on the field in practice. This is the guy that you want behind the center. I mean, the veteran presence, you know, he's been through every situation that a quarterback can go through, and he knows how to play the game. One of the most efficient guys, one of the smartest guys that I've ever been around in terms of football IQ, and he knows how to distribute the ball. So it just took some time for him to get acclimated back into playing the game. And now you can tell he's in the flow, he's in the rhythm, and to complement everything else, Alex Smith know what he got. He's looking at the team in its entirety on both sides of the ball and saying that we can win the NFC East, we can be good for a long time. And just think, this was the guy that they brung in to lead this Washington football team a couple years ago. Now they're just getting back to where they started. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful story for Ron Rivera, beautiful story for Alex Smith, and the Washington football team is about to take off. It's no joke. It's no secret.
Well, listen, I said a month ago on this show I thought Washington could win this division, and that is now you have who's the best quarterback in this division right now? Strong argument to be made, it's going to be Alex Smith. Dalton is Dalton. Carson Wentz is statistically the worst quarterback in football this year. And Daniel Jones, while he can make all the throws, can also make all the mistakes. Another question for you. Who's the best coach in the NFC East right now? Strong argument to be made, it's Ron Rivera. Mike McCarthy is not exactly bathing himself in glory this season. And this last one is not even a question or a debate. What is the best unit in the NFC East? Meaning, the Eagles' offensive line. That's not who you would pick. But pick a team and a unit. Cowboys' receiving core is up there. But I think Washington's defensive line is the best unit in this entire division as well. So if you have maybe the best coach, maybe the best quarterback, and definitely the best skill position unit, that's a recipe to win the division. Now, they still have games against Pittsburgh and Seattle. They'll probably lose those games, so they max out at 7 wins. But 7 wins probably gets it done. And Wilds, when you have one dominant unit, particularly if it's a pass rushing unit, you can, in a sample size of 1, beat anybody. So if you are not just the Bucs, if you're the Cardinals or the Rams, one of the teams that could be that 5 seed in the NFC, you are rooting for the Eagles. You are rooting for the Giants. You are rooting for someone other than Washington. Not because Washington is this great team, but because they have one unit that is so great, that one unit can win a football game. A great defensive line can win an individual football game, even if the rest of the team isn't clicking. So, yeah, I think they're dangerous, and I think they will win the division, Wilds.
I love it. You know what we're getting, America? You are seeing Nick Wright plant the seed of a take. A lot of times people think these takes just come fully grown. That is not how the take industry works. We just planted this, put it into the take soil, and what it's going to sprout out in a few weeks, it's going to be Washington is going to eliminate Tampa Bay. That's what's growing right now. We're going to water it throughout the weeks. That's what's coming up, and I'm very excited. Hey, Mike, I might be overthinking this. The trick play that Ron Rivera ran, it's from the Little Giants. He also ran it in Carolina with Cam. It's a little Fumbarooski type move. To me, I was like, man, Alex Smith must be very comfortable in this offense if they're already going like, you know what? Let's run some trick plays from some children's movies. Well, am I reading too much into it, or is that a sign of sort of the comfortability in the offense?
Yeah, and it's their comfort in Alex, too. I mean, if you sit in the room with Alex Smith in one film session, you're going to know why he's a starting quarterback. I don't see why the younger guys up under him didn't achieve what they were supposed to achieve or get better, because you have a presence like him. The only thing you can do is absorb information. It's going to be all good information. You just got to take it and run with it. And, the entire organization see that, especially the offensive staff. They respect Alex. They respect his football knowledge. And he's going to be in that position as long as he want to be in that position. I'm happy for Al.
Well, I think we all are. All right, I got to ask you guys about this. From yesterday's game, Cowboys down 4 early in the fourth. They tried this disaster of a fake punt, 4th and 10 at their own 25. Washington scored on the very next play to go up by 11. But Mike McCarthy defended it after the game. Take a listen.
Well, you won't get anywhere if you're thinking about negatives all the time. Obviously it was a solid play call. It's a good play design. Their gunner made a good play, came off of it. He put us in a high-low read for Cedric. So it's a play that, if we hit it, obviously we're sitting here applauding. That's the nature of those plays. You can never convert them, obviously, if you don't call them and if you don't believe in them. So I clearly understood the situation when it was called.
So, Mike, I got to ask you, look, he makes a good point. Did Mike McCarthy's play calling, Mike, cost the Cowboys the game?
I mean, Mike McCarthy made some solid points, but at the end of the day, man, it's a time and a place for that. And I think he just chose the wrong time to make these calls and these decisions. He put the team in a bad spot. I thought they was playing well, and I thought they was playing with confidence, which is what you have to do in their state. They showed a little desperation, and I know sometimes that shows up in the NFL. But you got to pick and choose your spots, and this certainly wasn't the time for it.
And yeah, you're only down 4. Washington's offense had only had 1 sustained touchdown drive. And I get it. 28's wide open. But you're asking Cedric Wilson to make a great long pass on the run in order for this play to work. But Wilds, I'm going to take a page out of your book and try to do an on-the-fly analogy. Okay. Because Mike McCarthy said something really interesting. He's like, you don't get anywhere in life thinking about the negatives. Sometimes life is all about thinking about the negatives. You ever been on a long drive on a long country road and there's a car in front of you, like 2-lane road going each way, car in front of you that is just so slow, and you're like, finally it's my time to pass it, and you go out and you look and you're like, oh, there's a semi coming the other way, now it's pretty far out and I'm 95% certain I can get past this car. You got to think about the 5% negative, because the 5% negative, if you're wrong, is you die. It's like, well, I probably will get past it, but if I don't, I die. And if you're the Cowboys, we probably convert this. But if we don't, our season's over. If we don't, our team is dead. We're going to lose this game. We're going to fall to 3-8. We're going to get swept by Washington, and it's over. So you have to contemplate, Wilds, the negative to go along with the upside. The risk did not merit the reward here in order for this to be the right call.
I buy that.
Yeah, I buy that. I don't want to die. Sure. So if that's the options, I die. You're not moving me off my point that I still love it, because look, we banged on Mike McCarthy. It's like, what were you doing in that barn? Did you actually watch the games? Because this is the same old boring offense. He's like, okay. Then he overcompensated, started praying up all these trick plays.
Went too far.
For me, Brandon, slightly too far. So for me, Brandon, I also like the press conference, Brandon, where the quote is, obviously it's a good play call and it's a good play design. He just kind of like, obviously it's a good play. I was like, oh, okay, I guess it is. I guess we got to take your word for it. Brandon, I love it just because, but I'm not a head football coach. Would you ever run this play, or do you think it's just too dangerous?
Well, let me say this. I don't love it, but I understand it. You got to think about it. There's games within the game. The game should have been won on the field. The players should win the game. But you have a defensive line that's not stopping anyone. You have CeeDee Lamb, who dropped a touchdown that would have put him ahead of the Washington football team. So as a coach, you're standing on the sideline. You're like, well, my guys aren't going to go win the game, so let me insert myself and try to do it. Now, I get all the points. I hear it. They're valid. But at the end of the day, he's right. It was a great design. Now, what I would have called it, I don't know. But I understand it, Jenna. The players didn't want to take the game into their hands and win it. So I can understand the coach stepping in and saying, you know, this could be that moment. This could be that Philly special. This could be, Wiles, what you talked about earlier, that onside kick in the Saints and Colts game in the Super Bowl.
But Brandon, we love it. We just don't understand it.
Well, Vic, I want to ask you something. Because I thought Troy said something really interesting during the game. And Wilds has been off the air harping on this point, so I'm going to bring it to the air, which is Zeke, his usage, and his effectiveness. Zeke yesterday had 32 yards. He has 100-yard game all season. And in an earlier fourth down situation, they didn't run a fake punt. They went for it in their own territory. And instead of handing the ball to the highest paid running back in football, they threw it, and it was a disaster for him, right? Like, what are you seeing from Zeke's, like, yesterday and this year, when he has, you know, he's known as one of the very best backs in football? Troy seemed to question that, and the Cowboys' own play calling, particularly on that 4th and short, seemed to question that.
Yeah. First off, Nick, it was another call. Well, I love it, but I don't understand it. It was super backed up. You know, I love that quote by Brandon right there. I love it, but I just don't understand it, man. But you know, Zeke's one of the best backs in the game, and of course, you have that confidence in him, and you want to give him an opportunity to prove that in that moment, because Zeke is the type of back he's going to convert that fourth down. He's going to convert that play. But at the same time, you got to know where you at in the field. You got to understand that on the other side, it's one of the well-coached teams, or probably one of the best coached teams in the National Football League under Ron Rivera. He's not going to leave any stones unturned. He's going to be ready for every piece of situational football that can come about in the game. And then you do have Zeke and an offensive line that's banged up, so that has to be taken into consideration, and I don't know if it was. So that's more the reason why, they could have could have just took a step back, looked at the situation, punted it off, and lived for a better day, for a better time. But it just didn't happen in that moment. I didn't understand the call. I love the wishful thinking, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah, but Mike, if they convert that, guess what we're saying? Oh my goodness, Coach McCarthy, he saved the Dallas Cowboys season. He went out on a limb and he did the unthinkable. The same thing that we said with the Philly special. And we can go back to times where Bill Belichick went for it on fourth down or did something that, the number said don't do.
Unconventional.
So
yep.
I love Coach trying to take the game in his hands because his team wasn't going to win it for them. I absolutely love him trying to do it.
But to Nick's point, I still think there's a bigger conversation as to what's going on with Zeke this season. All right, well, Sunday's big matchup, big Brady-Mahomes matchup, live up to its billing. Heck yeah, it will. It's my guarantee to you. We'll talk some Bucs and Chiefs next. First things first. Sunday, MVP candidate Kyler Murray leads the Cardinals against Cam Newton and the Patriots. You got Giants taking on the Bengals. There's tons of regional action. Check your local listings for the game in your area, all part of the Fox Football Feast. Now time for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Dallas's downward spiral continues. Poor coaching, poor execution. Poor Cowboys. They tried this disaster of a fake punt on 4th down and 10 at their own 25. Washington scored on the very next play to go up 11. Dallas went on to get blown out in the 4th. 41-16 the final, but Mike McCarthy defending the move after the game. Take a listen.
Well, you won't get anywhere if you're thinking about negatives all the time. Obviously it was a solid play call. It's a good play design. Their gunner made a good play, came off of it. He put us in a high-low read for Cedric. So it's a play that, if we hit it, obviously we're sitting here applauding. That's the nature of those plays. You can never convert them, obviously, if you don't call them and if you don't believe in them. So I clearly understood the situation when it was called.
I mean, Brandon, he's right. If they hit it, he's the hero. They did not hit it. I asked you this, Brandon. Did Mike McCarthy's play calling cost the Cowboys the game?
Of course, it's every game. I mean, that's the job of a coach, right? You got to make the tough decisions. When I look at this, I don't love it, but I understand it. Every morning, and it's almost like universal. So you walk into any type of locker room, 8 a.m., there's going to be special teams meeting happening. And when you walk in those meetings, what we're looking for the tendencies. We're looking for those opportunities to call trick plays or to call a fake or to call the punt block play that we designed because they're giving us a key. So when you look at this, they had what they wanted. Now, to me, it comes down to Mr. Wilson not making the right play. Like, he should have let it go. Like, you have nothing to lose here. Let it go. So, Nick, for me, I don't love it, but I absolutely understand it because the players are supposed to win the game. The game is supposed to be won on the field. But when you look around the defensive line, they're not making any plays. They're getting gashed. You got CeeDee Lamb, who's been really good all year, but he made some rookie mistakes. So when you look at it as a coach, you're like, all right, well, maybe it's time for me to insert myself and give our team a little bit of something to take this game. And that's why I think he made this call.
I understand that mentality. I just question the situation. You know, the old cliche, desperate times call for desperate measures. The problem is, I don't think this was desperate times for the Cowboys, right? In the macro or the micro. In the macro, played a good game against Pittsburgh, almost won it. Played your best game of the year against the Vikings. And you're in fine position here. You're going to punt the ball away Washington's going to have bad field position. You're down 4. You get one stop. You have to get the ball back with plenty of time. There's 12 and a half minutes left. So to me, this was the type of play you call, not if it's 20-16, but if it's 30-16. And I understand that 28's running wide open at the top of the screen. I see it. The problem is you're asking Cedric Wilson to see it, diagnose it, and if he does all that, to throw a pinpoint pass on the run. But Wilds, I don't even know if this was the most questionable 4th down decision, because they had a 4th and 1 earlier. And by the way, I endorse going for almost all 4th and 1s. The numbers say, barring, there are a few situations you can't, but most situations, 4th and 1, it is positive EV to go for it. But a quarterback sneak makes sense. If you're going to run it, you do have a $90 million running back there. And I'm not saying this was a terrible play call, but to me, Wilds, it shows a lack of faith in Zeke, who once Dak went down was supposed to be the player your offense was centered around. And this was another big moment in the game when it's a tie game before halftime.
I totally agree. This for some reason, Zeke became the player on this highlight. And Brandon, I know we kind of like joke. He's got the feed me stomach tattoo, and he's always doing feed me.
Yeah.
But there's a point where if I was Ezekiel Elliott, I would go to the coach and be like, hey, I know I only ended up running for 38 yards, but I want that opportunity, because when we look at his stats, we've been on the downside, the back 9 here. First, he's played a total of 70 games. The first 51, a lot better than the last 19. So I don't know what the answer is. If it's just a banged up offensive line, is he losing his step? But if I was Zeke, I would still try to be aggressive, and I would be personally kind of, it'd hurt my feelings if I didn't get the ball on a 4th and 1 play, Brandon.
Well, there's a lot to this discussion. Let's start with your whole feed me thing, and this is Zeke's celebration. He does it every single game. Zeke may be eating a little too much. Like, when you look at his press conferences, I don't know his measurements. I don't know his body fat. I don't know his BMI. But it looks like he's not in the best shape. That's one. Oh, yeah, 100%. And the second thing that I think about is, how many times has he put the ball on the turf? Zeke, if I'm Zeke and I'm trying to be a good teammate, I'm going to go to coach and say, don't put me in. I might mess it up. I've been doing it all year. The play call. Now let's get back to that. I'm serious. You got a $90 million back, but you got a wide receiver out there who's going to be potentially paid $150 million. That is a rookie route that he ran. The game is on the line. You have everything you want. The boxes are loaded. The box is loaded. There's no way. There's probably going to be nowhere to run. It'll get stuffed. You have to throw this ball. Right. This was an excellent play call. You got one-on-one outside. The cornerback's in bail. What did you see CeeDee Lamb do at the top of his route? He slipped. You got to be able to plant that right foot and come right back to the ball. He wasn't able to do that because his route at the top was sloppy. His shoulders wasn't over his toes, and that's why they didn't convert that. That was the second big mistake that CeeDee had in that ball game.
That's totally fair. The only pushback I'll give you is this, because you're right. You don't want to run the ball against that front. Like, there's a loaded box. Your offensive line's banged up. But it is a choice by the Cowboys to go in that formation. They go double tight end set, where you're essentially daring the opposition to load the box. You do have the opportunity to spread it out a little bit more, keep Zeke in the backfield, and then potentially have a better running option for him, or a quarterback sneak, which is...
But Nick, look what you have, though. You have pitch and catch, right? Because we're talking about we want to crush Mike McCarthy. It's a good question. 4th and 1. Why did you call it? But that's the answer right there. If he runs a good route, then they convert, and it's a different story. That was a good play call in my mind.
Here we go.
All right, let's leave that be and turn our attention to this game coming up this weekend. Bucs and Chiefs, Brady and Mahomes, the best to ever do it against the best currently doing it. Brady does have the advantage on Mahomes coming into this one. 2-1 lifetime against him in head-to-heads, but this is, of course, his first time with Tampa. So, Brandon, what has to happen for the Bucs to pull off this upset?
Yeah, no, this is going to be a really good game. This could be the upset alert of the week. Well, actually, to me, it is. Tampa Bay, their struggles are real. You know, Tampa, Tom Brady, they got to figure it out. This is 90% Bruce Arians' offense, taking shots down the field, being super aggressive, pushing the ball down the field. And it's 10% what you've seen Tom Brady do in New England, dink and dunk, balanced offense. So for that reason, that's why we're seeing this whole offense lack chemistry, and it just feels disjointed. What they need to do to get back on track is three things. They need to run the ball more than 18 times. You got two running backs that can get it done. You need to at least they need to at least touch it 25 to 30 times. The second thing you need to do, counter the run by play action. That's what Tom did in New England, and it worked well for them. And the last thing, use AB inside. Now, AB is typically an outside wide receiver, but when you think about Tom Brady likes to work the passing game inside out. That's what he does. And you can also say inside to his check down. Tom Brady is not efficient throwing the ball outside those numbers and down the field over and over and over again. Those three things are the keys right there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So I think those three keys are essentially perfect for the Bucs offense. Listen, the Chiefs' run defense has been bad for 3 years, so I do agree that's where you can take advantage of them. And you saw AB be the most productive receiver in that loss against the Rams, and I feel like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, it should be Antonio Brown torturing one of the overmatched Chiefs corners throughout the football game. So I agree with that part of it. The question, though, is what are the Bucs going to be able to do defensively? Because, Wilds, I don't think you can slow down this Chiefs offense. I think a lot of people felt like the Raiders played a really good game. Chiefs scored 35 points. And when they're averaging 32 points a game, when they average less than 1 turnover per game, if right now the Bucs could sign up for the Chiefs will score exactly 28 points, I think they'd sign up for that in a heartbeat. So the question to me would be, Wilds, if following Brandon's game plan, can the Bucs get to 31? And I'd have real questions about that.
Yeah, it's a question, is the Bucs defense going to be the Bucs defense we've seen for the last few weeks, or the Bucs defense that we saw against Aaron Rodgers? And if they can pressure Mahomes like Aaron Rodgers, then I'm interested in something. I want to say something about the deep ball and Bruce Arians, to Brandon's point, too. I know everyone's thinking like, Tom Brady's old. He doesn't throw the deep ball anymore. He's really struggling of late, even though he looks like an Adonis that he's posting pictures on Thanksgiving. I think this also just, Jenna, gave him a little extra motivation not to eat too much on Thanksgiving. That's my inside take.
A little
Look
Photoshop angle, too, but that's neither here nor there.
Through the first 11 games of the season, only 39 attempts, and this was 2007 with Randy Moss. And I think that our highlight memories of Randy Moss streaking down the field has overtaken the reality of how that offense worked. So the fact that Bruce Arians has taken 60 shots down the field already, Nick, I just want to be a little bit more conservative, play Bill Belichick-like football to give the Bucs a chance to beat you.
I've got a gambling pick to end the week on. Parlay the Chiefs money line with no post-game handshake. It pays 2.5 to 1. It's a unique bet. Find it.
Have a great
Parlay it,
weekend,
America.
everyone.